Welcome back, everybody. Another hobby review by Hans, and on the tails of my highly successful review of Airfix's models in their aircraft lineup, I'm going to do another subset of a giant model company. I'm going to do the 135th armor layout of Tamiya. Big T themselves. Yeah, this isn't going to cause any controversy at all. Anywho, now thank you everyone for calling me out on my lack of research on the Airfix video. I'm going to hopefully fix that. I got a computer over there, going to look stuff up, try to get it right. So, Tamiya, they've been around since 1946. Yeah, 1946. Originally starting off as a lumber mill in the post-war environment. They didn't start doing model kits until the early 60s. I believe 1961 was their first model kit. Their 135th Armor saw their first kit as a Panther tank in 1961. And they have been on the go ever since. Now, I got to give a bit of a caveat here. This is a little bit interesting, and it kind of makes me stress out a little bit trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. But Tamiya has three primary lineups of 135th Armored kits. Today we're talking about the mainstream kits, the 35 series, otherwise known as the Model Master series. These are genuine Tamiya tooling. What I mean by the 35 series or the Model Master series, if you look at the part number on the box, 5-digit number, beginning with a 35. There you go. More modern boxes, actually like the Archer here, instead of the 35, they'll say an MM. But your online retailers and stuff will usually list it in the 35 series part number. That means that it's a genuine Tamiya kit, genuine Tamiya tooling. It's their own deal, 100% through and through. Now, this kit here is MM356. That means it's the 356th release in that lineup. Other lineups you got to be aware of, though. You have your 37 series. The 37 series from Tamiya are actually Italiary kits in a Tamiya box with Tamiya instructions, but the tooling is Italiary. So, completely unapplicable in this review is the 37 series. When I get to Italiary stuff, I'll cover theirs as well and go into the Tamiya connection. But right now, remember, I am not reviewing the 37 series kits here. The 25 series kits gets even weirder. That can be anything. It can be a complete rebox of somebody else. For instance, they have a lot of partnerships with companies like Fine Molds of Asuka, I can't remember how to pronounce it. Actually, I never knew how to pronounce it. Or a lot of times you're going to have a combination of a Tamiya kit with an Italiary kit in one boxing, like a double kit sort of thing. Sometimes you have a Tamiya kit with aftermarket stuff from another company. Like, for instance, you'll have like Aber photo etch, turned aluminum barrel from another company as opposed to Tamiya's barrel in there. So the 25 series, it could be anything. You really need to actually look up what you're getting in there. But a lot of times in there, like I said, it is a Tamiya-based kit with aftermarket accessories. Sometimes it is an alternate company manufacturer, but they are typically a much newer lineage than the 37 series Italiary combos. But again, I am talking about Tamiya's 35 series stuff. Now, I do not have any older Tamiya kits here, but I mentioned this in the Airfix review. Tamiya drives me nuts in one manner in that they really need to retire some of their molds. For instance, they have a Panzer II out there that was tooled in 1971, and I just checked online, you can still buy it in stores. Yep, and they have an M41 Walker Bulldog. Same deal, early 70s tooling, unchanged, still available. Some kits they have updated with a couple new parts, maybe some photo etch thrown in, such as four-wheel armored cars from the German lineup. Most of those kits, the base kits, are from the 70s. They're 25-pounder with the prime mover, again, 1970s kit, still in production. So I'm going to give you guys a rule of thumb here. I'm not going to review kits that are of that age. So my general rule is that the good kits start around the 35-150 range. The fantastic kits start around the 35-250 range. But there are a lot of good kits. There are a lot of good kits prior to that 35-150 and the 35-250 part numbers. It's just that it gets a little trickier to figure out what the good ones are in those those age ranges. Now, Tamiya, when you get into those older kits though, things get weird. A lot of those tank kits that they had were actually designed, and some of the more modern ones, you even see some of this in there as well. They were designed to be motorized. Yes, motorized. Little electric motor, little wired remote control. You can actually drive them, some of them. It never works well, don't even bother with it, but that is a lot of the compromise that they put into their older kits that kind of drove some weird dimensionalities and things like that. To me, it does weird things like that once in a while, but we'll cover that later, particularly into their not their 35th, but their 1/48th scale stuff. Like I said, I've been doing Tamiya kits for quite some time, and there are two main reputations with Tamiya for their modern kits. One is, it's a bit of a cliche, but it is the dump the glue in the box, shake it all around, your kit is done. Their engineering, everyone always raves about their engineering, and if you build enough of these kits, you know that it is true. Their engineering is fantastic. The other thing that they have is they're not as detailed as some other kits. Now, they look fantastic, they're engineered very well, they present very well, but a case in point here, Char B1. Now, there is absolutely nothing on the inside of this tank. Not even a hint of it. There is no internal detail whatsoever on pretty much any of the closed hull tanks that Tamiya does, which is unfortunate because it's just the way they are. The other thing too is that, like, a lot of times they'll do hatches that have a handle in it, and it'll just be like a rectangular blob on there as opposed to like a separate handle. So they do kind of, and you see that like on the Martyr too here. You sort of have on your back deck, you're gonna have a couple tie down or side handles here. They're just kind of molded in on the surface, but they're not actual tie downs in that sense. Don't remember where the interior for this came from. Was that aftermarket? I think it was an aftermarket interior. I don't remember. Anyway, another gripe that I have in older Tamiya kits, now it's not going to apply here. Like I said, it's an older Tamiya kit issue, is they are a rubber, because, like I said, a lot of this comes from the, don't point at him, he wasn't that case. It comes from the powered kits. So they're all, the older kits are rubber band tracks, which means they're like, rubber band, you wrap it, not stretchy, but you wrap it around, you get the little pins you melt in there to do that. And it's Martyr 3 I have, it's about a 20-year-old build. Those tracks have disintegrated. So that's just another unfortunate thing there. But Tamiya, sometimes Tamiya likes to flex. Oh, they like to flex. This is the small version. This is the M26 Armored Recovery Vehicle. They also sell this as in another boxing called the Dragon Wagon, where they have the full trailer where you can put a tank on it. Big ass kit. Like I said, every once in a while they really like to flex. The Char B here was another kit that they really pulled a flex on, because at the time nobody was doing French armor in any kind of good manner. They just weren't very good. This guy came up, this one blew everybody away. It was one of the first Tamiya kits I know of that they also did with separate link tracks, which is very unusual for them, individual link tracks. Another thing I do really like with Tamiya is they tend to release their kits, maybe not all at once in this way, but they tend to release their kits in series of connected vehicles. For instance, the M20 armored car here was the second kit in this series. Originally, it was released as an M8, which was the turreted version of the same armored car. Archer here. If you know the Archer, you know that is a derivative of the Valentine tank. Tamiya did a few different Valentines. Such great kits too. I haven't gotten around to one just because when I did a Valentine, it was a accurate armor resin kit. That was all that was available at the time. I'm still having nightmares about that build. But anyway, so Tamiya, they like to release their kits in series of related kits. Tamiya, cool thing they also do, pretty much every Tamiya kit, with there are some exceptions, but the vast majority, they all come with figures that are molded specifically individually to the kit. For instance, on the M26 vehicle here, what do we have? I've got a driver and a guy in the back seat reading a magazine. They came with the kit. Came with a little printed magazine you can cut out, so it's actually like a readable magazine in there. The M20 has a driver. Your Char B has a crew member here. Archer has a 3-member crew on it. I love this stuff about them. Another drawback in the Tamiya stuff is, I'd mentioned it before, I like interiors, things like that. A lot of their interior stuff is just meh. Like on the Martyr 3, if all empty ammo racks, and you can get these weird little Tamiya rounds that can go in there. They're like turned brass. They're nice, but you get like 4 of them. It'd be nice to just mold. They do a molding where they kind of all represent or something. I don't know. There's different ways you could have done it. But they do a lot of simplification on stuff like that, which is unfortunate because of how well they're engineered. So anyway, I'm rambling on a little bit. So let's take an opening on this Archer here. I'll show you what I'm talking about and all these things, and then we'll come back for further discussion. But before I open the Archer here, I do have one thing to say, is that based on the success of my last video, if I hit 500 subscribers, so subscribe. If I hit 500 subscribers, I am going to start doing giveaways of kits, simply because, well, part of it is it's fun. It drives more views, things like that, but also buying kits to do these reviews, I'm ended up with way too many kits A lot of cool stuff. I just don't have the time or space for it. Definitely hit the subscribe button. After I hit 500 subscribers on my reviews, I will start doing giveaways of these model kits, aftermarket stuff, what have you. It all depends on what I have at the time, because this is all funded out of my own back pocket as opposed to any sponsorships. So anyway, let's open up the Archer here, take a look. We'll show you what a Tamiya kit looks like. Okay, the Archer, one of the weirder vehicles of World War II. Anti-tank gun based on the Valentine tank. How do you put a 17-pounder on it? Well, here's the weird part. That's the front. That's the back. So it's really, don't look at it as a tank destroyer. It's actually just an anti-tank gun that happens to have an engine on it. Anyway, we'll look at the Archer here. So Tamiya boxes have not really changed much since the 70s. Very similar artwork style. I mean, yeah, it's kind of morphed a little bit over time. You got more legal stuff on it, things like that. But just your general Tamiya box is going to look the same as it always has. I love some of the little blurbs that they give. For instance, Archer form is accurately captured thanks to study of an actual vehicle. Great. That's pretty much every model kit out there. Anyway, so your Tamiya box, though, it's top opening. I did take the plastic wrap off of these. More often than not, you see these with plastic wrap still. So top, you have your artwork. Now, they do things a little differently on your short sides. You're going to have your cover art, again, on the short sides. I mentioned before, like I said, now you're looking at the Model Master lineup, but basically 35356 for the part number. And also, oh, there we go, 35356. So there's your actual part number of your kit there. As it mentioned, includes a couple figures. They'll typically, on the long side, they'll show an alternate artwork that's in there. Now, they typically, Tamiya does not give you a lot of different marking options. They'll give you a couple. But here's one there as well. On the other side, you're going to have another marking option. Nice, they have an actual photograph, which is fairly common, and some information about it, but it is all written in Japanese, so I couldn't tell you what it is. Now, Tamiya does do their own importing now. Back in the 70s, 80s, whatever, they did partner with MRC for a lot of the importing, so older boxes, you might see the MRC logo on it. When you get into the boxes here, now Tamiya, they do like to individually bag everything. Every sprue gets its own individual bag, with some exceptions, like here you have some road wheels and stuff like that for the suspension, double bagged. This particular kit, now Tamiya is slowly moving this direction, but you actually have link and length tracks on it, and a flat pack kit. So this is not really a great representation of older Tamiya kits. It is a good representation of where Tamiya is going forward. Also, you have here, which is a little different, you have a double set of instructions. For instance, you have here, this is your information about the real world vehicle. Pretty much multi-language, not that much information on here, but it does give you some information about it, which is kind of cool. Then we'll get into your actual instructions, which we'll always cover those first. So let's look at these here. Tamiya instructions. Now, the cover looks a little different than they used to. Contents are the same as they've always been. Tamiya instructions are going to be on basically white copy, good white copy paper. Everything's in black and white. Now you have a lot of various little bits and pieces of information here. They have paint callouts in the beginning, and it's Tamiya. They're going to call out their own paints, their own cement, their own tools by part number because they want you to buy their stuff. They give you various tips and tricks on here on how to do model building of various styles because they do know they have a lot of beginners buying their kits. But you are essentially going to always have black and white line drawings. Sometimes, like in this kit, they will call out different variations if that becomes applicable later on. It is a bit more new that they're actually going to call out unused parts. They didn't always do that, but they are starting to do that now. And as is typical, Tamiya, they start with the hull itself. Now, this is a flat pack hull, which is, like I said, a bit more unusual for Tamiya. And because it is an open top vehicle, they do have some interior details. Again, not common on a Tamiya kit, but it is on this particular one. Their steps are usually very well laid out. Their parts, honestly, it's really hard to get these things wrong. The engineering is just so good on them. They will fall together quite nicely. Finishing up the hull, going into your suspension. The Valentine, it's a bit of a weird suspension on it, so there's not really like an industry standard how you do the Vickers slow motion suspension. Not many companies have done it, but also typically their suspensions are fixed. They are not posable without modification. They are not workable. They are where they are. Road wheels, pretty standard stuff, 2 or 3 pieces as needed. Suspension goes on the outside, road wheels go on. Now, like I said, they are moving to a link and length style track more often now. They will actually give you information of where the different lengths go, how many links going around. So you're going to see this more and more often from Tamiya kits. Older ones, as I mentioned, they did have the rubber band tracks, which are just single piece wrap around. I'm kind of glad they're moving away from, see, here we go. This one's not broken yet, but kind of flexible stuff. This is the older style tracks, but they don't last more than about 10 years on the shelf after you paint them. So I'm glad they're moving away from it. Of course, attach your hull top, start putting a lot of your top details on. Now, Tamiya kits, there's no photo etch that I can see in this particular kit. Sometimes they have small photo etch frets, but typically just vents or grills, things like that. Not an extensive photo etch typically available in their kits. They may sell some aftermarket photo etch sets under the Tamiya brand, but again, very simple in layout. But gun controls, of course, because this is an open top vehicle, you just can't get away from it. Interestingly, they have like this little ball joint there, which is, it's part of what the Archer was. It's just weird to see it in plastic. A little bit of stowage. Not too awful much. I mean, your stowage boxes are just going to be open, things like that. Now, as I did mention on the Martyr 3, where they had weird little half shells that go into the stowage, that's what they have here. Except the nice thing is now they're in plastic, which is good to see. Actually, I believe those are actually charge bags, not the actual shells. No, what am I talking about? 17-pounders of fixed charge. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. It's a brass case shell. It's not 2-piece. Just various stuff going on there. Again, just your basic black and white drawings, your typical little stowage bags, things like that. They'll give you the obvious stuff, not the really detailed stuff. And goes on and on, pretty similar. This is a little more complex of a kit than you would expect it to be. Now, Tamiya, your barrels are almost always plastic. Very rare to see an aluminum barrel on a Tamiya kit. Their muzzle brake is 2-piece. The barrel is 1-piece. More often than not, you'll see a 2-piece plastic barrel in a Tamiya kit. Your typical look, it's a string. They love to do their string tow cables. Then you have your figures with the paint callouts for all the figures there. Paint callouts for the ammunition. And they show where the actual crew members get placed within the vehicle. Your paint schemes are all black and white drawings with Tamiya paint callouts. And in this case, I believe they are both just XF61. So, yep, just green. Just green. The only color you really have on it is that unique, like, counter shading that they put on the barrel ends to hide the length of the barrel. So, yeah, that's your instructions. We'll go into the decals real quick. Tamiya, not known for complex decal sheets. You are going to get some markings for the units, things like that. That's about it. You're not going to really get much by way of stenciling, placards, things like that. That's their whole decal sheet for 2 different marking schemes. I will say Tamiya decals, they tend to go on well. They are thick. Do not do well if they have to go around curves or over details. They kind of respond to solvents, but they're not great. Now, into the parts here we have. Now, Tamiya kits are going to be molded in various different colors depending on where they're supposed to be. For instance, like a kit of a vehicle going to North Africa will be in a tan color. This one, Northwest Europe, is going to be in green. I said, for the most part, they are individually bagged, but not quite. And we get into the Tamiya. Let's get this out of the way so you can see. Your Tamiya parts. Sprues are typically very obviously Tamiya, round sprues. You get a lot of the times you're going to have, see, these are nice, they're 2-piece. A lot of times you'll have open back wheels on some of the older kits. The parts are very well molded, engineered very well. They're typically going to be no flaws in them as you're building them. you will see some detail improving on more modern kits. Like you have a lot of your bolt heads and stuff like that on these wheels. Older kits don't necessarily have an expectation for that to be there. Two of the same sprue. We're not going to look at that one again. We'll go into the tracks here because, as I said, Tamiya is changing how they're doing things, so a lot of you may not have seen it. Oh, and look, the string for your tow cable. And it's just string. You've seen string before. And looks like you have some poly caps for probably for the idler wheels and the drive sprockets, so that they can be press fit without glue, so you can turn them. Not many companies do the poly caps anymore. Tamiya still does. Now go into your tracks. Like I said, these are length and length tracks now. So you have a stretch of pre-assembled, some individual lengths, some shorter ones. Not the best detailed tracks, but sufficient for the needs here. Better than the rubber band style ones, I'll tell you that though. These are acceptable tracks. I would use these tracks. Your molded springs, whereas other companies might actually give actual springs. They're all molded in here. Now these are not badly done for a molded spring, but it's still obvious that it's molded. A little on the chunky side compared to what you would dictate you would think it would look like. Again, two of the same sprue. Actually, there's another set of poly caps. So, yep. Going into your next bag here, because we have your figures in there. Like I said, whenever Tamiya gives you figures, they are unique to that kit. They are not generic figures at all. Typically like half a dozen pieces here. Their figures have gotten actually pretty nice in recent years. Some of their older ones weren't that great. A lot of their figure sets that you can buy, their figure sets are typically old tooling. Their figures that come with the vehicles are going to be newly tooled for that vehicle. But typical stuff. Now you are going to have some ejector pin marks. They do their best to hide them, but like for instance here, these are... let's see, where's some interior stuff that would be visible. Yeah, like your gun shield here. They did a good job of hiding them. They have some molded in cabling, which is nice. That's a newer thing, not always something you would see in older Tamiya kits. So they do their best to hide their ejector pin marks, but do plan on having to deal with some of them. And the sprue attachment points are not always in the best locations for cleaning things up, but they do well. Like I said, they engineer their kits for assemblability as opposed to raw detail power. Your upper hull, of course, we'll take a look at this, upper and lower hull, because these are the most obvious parts of the tank. Now, let's see if I can find them here. So, for instance, I mentioned on some kits they do this. So, your hinges on your engine lids, of course, your lids won't open. Your hinges are molded in. That's in the way. Your engine grill, all molded. Yes, there's no visibility through the grill there. See if they have any grab handles there. Whereas other companies might have your forward sand shield pieces hinged or a separate piece. These are, of course, molded in. More molded hinges, grab handles, stuff like that. Like I said, these grab handles. Oh, sorry, that's not this, but all your hinges and stuff are molded in. Whereas other companies would give you those as separate pieces and posability to your hatches. Whereas Tamiya kits, typically the hatches are not openable or not separate pieces. So they're very well detailed, but they're meant to be built in one way with little versatility to it. And your various gun parts, as I mentioned here. Your gun barrel is a single piece, and there's, of course, going to be, well, it's hard to see from here. There's a seam line. It's not a huge seam line, but you have a seam line to clean up when you assemble the muzzle brake. I would have preferred that to be slide molded and put on the end, but yeah, they didn't. They did very little slide molding on this kit. A little bit in here, but not much. Bren gun for an accessory, but typically light on accessories other than some stowage stuff. So that is the Archer. Oh, and did I see a clear sprue? Oh, I did see a clear sprue. So nice that they give you, to me it doesn't always do this, but they do more often than not, clear lenses for your lights and various like your armored glass viewport there. They give it all in clear, so you can just leave the lens portion clear, paint the rest. So that is the Archer by Tamiya. So that's the guts of the Archer. A little bit of overview on some of the older kits that I have here. So I gotta give you guys an opinion on this stuff, and this is gonna be tough. So here's the thing. Tamiya, as a company, is focused very much on a specific customer base, okay? Their customer base, as shown by their instructions, by their engineering, things like that, they are focused on modelers that are not necessarily the upper echelon of the competition building community. They are focused on modelers that enjoy building models. They may not be that experienced at it. They might not have an extensive arsenal of tools and paints and things like that. And they want, Tamiya wants their customers to have the maximum chance of success in building a kit. So I have to frame this review and my conclusions based on that. And I also have to throw in the caveat that because how long they've been building kits, and this is my only significant, legitimate complaint about Tamiya, is that they've left so many of their kits in production for far, far, far longer than they should have been. A company with the ability of Tamiya should not have kits engineered in the 1970s still in production as part of their mainline model kits. I'm serious. They should just stop producing those old kits, because if you don't know what you're doing, and here's the unfortunate part, is that those older kits of the lower quality tend to be the kits that are more often represented in major retailers, such as like Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby is where you can buy on the shelf right now in my town the M41 Walker Bulldog, which is a kit I would never recommend that you buy. But that's the kit that people are going to stumble into because that's what's available. And if that happens, it's going to spoil everything that you can possibly get out of this company. There is another guy on YouTube, I can't remember his name, so I'm not going to make the mistake of saying the wrong name, but he is a big model builder from Australia, and he purchased his first Tamiya kit, which was a T34-76, and he hated it, and it completely turned him off to Tamiya for good, and it sounds like he's never going to build a Tamiya kit again, which is unfortunate because I can totally relate with a bad experience causing you to have that view towards a brand. So that's why I got to put the caveat of you got to buy the newer kits, the 35-150 or preferably 35-250 part numbers and above. If you're a new model builder or casual model builder, you just want to enjoy building a kit and you buy one of those within that criteria, there is nobody better to give you an armored building experience than Tamiya in that category. They are engineered phenomenally well for buildability, and they are geared specifically towards you as a customer. And Tamiya has put so much time and money and effort into giving you a kit that will give you a high level of success and a good result without having to have an extensive pile of tools and decades of experience and things like that. That is who Tamiya is geared for. And if you are in that category, you cannot find better. This is the S tier. This is the premier company for people within that category, be it aircraft, armor, what have you, as long as you get their newer kits. You will not find a better experience. They have a fantastic lineup of stuff. I wish I could still build from that mindset, because I envy that of you if you are a casual model builder buying a Tamiya kit and being so happy about it, because that is a legitimate feeling that you should be feeling, because that is what this kit is made for, and it is succeeding and you are succeeding. The thing is, it will very easily get you to this plateau. Problem is, I'm up here. Or at least I think I am. I'm probably not, but I think I am. So I'm looking for that extra level of detail. I do building competitions and things like that. And Tamiya, to do that, you need to put extra into these kits to reach that higher level for a competition type of build. So you need to dip into the aftermarket, the photo etch, the turned metal barrels, things like that Tamiya is not offering, because I am not their customer. And I can't review them honestly from where I am. But I really should start building these kits again, because I have been shifting my viewpoint towards building for fun. I mean, that's one of the reasons I bought this Archer. I've always wanted one. I've always wanted a good Valentine tank. Tamiya has a whole lineup of them, and they look so good. I'm not going to, and if I'm not building for a competition, if I'm building for myself, why am I not building these things? But if you are building for a competition level type of stuff, like I said, because you do have to put the extra work into them, they're a B-level kit. They're not the top of the pile for a competition build. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you have rubber tires on this thing. That's okay. Don't worry about it. This kit is, I love this kit. I love building this. I love putting it on my shelf. This kit is not going to go away. I mean, I've been cycling out a lot of my older stuff that's kind of rough. These guys, a couple of these guys, they're going to stay for quite some time. So this is the tough part. Now that you've seen the guts of the Archer, where am I going to rank these kits? And it's a tough one for me because I'm not in it as practiced as I used to be, but I'm a competition level modeler, and I am not the customer base for a Tamiya kit. That is a caveat I have to throw out there right now. Tamiya kits are made for your general model builder that might not have the high, they might not be the most experienced. They might not have a fortune worth of tools in their bench. They're made for the most people to get the most success. And Tamiya has been throwing for decades tremendous amount of time, money, effort, and engineering into building kits that are just very, very, very well buildable, and they can reach a very high standard for the most amount of their customers. Now, if you look at it at that viewpoint, which of course, like I said, you have to stick with their newer kits, for casual model builders, for new model builders in the armor world, there is no company better than Tamiya out on the market. And I don't see anybody pushing to take that title away from them. If you are a casual model builder, if you are a beginner model builder, and you want to build tanks, this is the top tier. This is the Platinum Plus S tier. I cannot rate these kits better for that customer base, as long as you get within the scope of what this review is, which is the 35 series. The higher the part number, the better. And this is my only real significant legitimate complaint about Tamiya is, please discontinue any kit that was molded prior to 1980. Get rid of them, or mark them in the classic series or whatever, like Airfix is doing. Just stop having these kits being the ones that your customers are getting first because they're in the mass market retailers. Give them the good kits, and they will love your kits, Tamiya. If they keep buying your crappy kits, like another YouTuber from Australia, his first Tamiya experience was one of the oldest, worst kits you've ever offered, and it's still on the market. He will never buy another Tamiya kit, and he will give a rant about that. I've built plenty of Tamiya kits over the past 40-something years, and I've loved these kits. I wish I didn't get away from building them. I don't know why I did, because they are fantastic kits. Like I said, if you're a casual model builder, if you are a beginner model builder, you cannot go wrong with a newer Tamiya kit. Just pick the one you like, make sure the 35 number is high enough, and enjoy the hell out of the experience, because you will. Now, if you're a competition model builder, you know what I'm going to say about this, and you're going to agree with me, is that Tamiya kits, the engineering is second to none. Their selection is fantastic. They have a bunch of great kits out there. But for a competition build, they just need a little bit more detail because we're not their market. We are not their customer base. So, of course, they're not going to have the things we're looking for. They're not going to have the extensive photo etch sheets, the big bulky interiors, the workable tracks, the turned aluminum barrels. They're not going to have that because we're not their customers. So we have to buy that and put it in there and do the extra work separately. So for a competition model builder, for a pure, all out and out, self-admitted rivet counter guy with AMS like I am, it's a B-level kit. Just because, like I said, they're not made for me. They're made for they're made for model builders that don't have decades of experience looking to take home trophies. They're made for the average model builder that wants the best looking tank on their shelf that they can do out of the box with minimal tools. Doesn't mean that competition guys can't build Tamiya. Doesn't mean you shouldn't. It just means that have the expectation that you're going to need to put a little more into it to get it to that level. And that's where we are on this. It's one of those. It's a shame I got away from building Tamiya. I did for a while. I'm going to get back to them. And we're going to close out by saying, yeah, I don't care what model level builder you're at. Tamiya is great. It's just, like I said, if you're going to do competition stuff, you got to do a little more work, but that's okay. One new thing I'm going to add to the reviews now, though, is I'm going to let you guys know what reviews are up and coming. I do have 2 special reviews for you guys that I think you're going to really enjoy. One of them is one of my new absolute favorite model kits, or model manufacturers, which is Copper State Models, and their lineup of fantastic little World War I armored cars. The other one is going to be Ryefield Models, because I am a masochist and I enjoy torturing myself. And the whole bit about advanced modelers wanting that extra stuff, Yeah, that's where you're going to find it, and I'm not sure that that's a good thing. But we'll get to that review when we get to that review because those boxes are still in the mail. Anyway, this is Hobby Reviews by Hans. Remember to like and subscribe. If you get to 500 subscribers on my channel, I'm going to start doing giveaways of good kits or maybe older kits. I'll let you guys choose which ones you want. Anyway, take care. Have a good night. See you next time.